We are live.
We are. All right. Well, hey, it's the future now. It arrived. So today, Stephen Monaco, that's the other guy there, and I, Jason Kanigan, are going to talk about video marketing. And this is just like last week's topic about mobile marketing, where I came on thinking, I know a lot about mobile marketing. And then as we went in, I realized, wait a minute, there's a lot more here to grab a hold of. So let's get into some powerful reasons you need to be using video marketing. I mean, there has been a crazy video revolution for marketers over the past few years. So, Stephen, is it really worth it for companies to use videos or even consider using videos to promote their business?
Yes. In a word, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that ends the show. So thanks for...
Thanks. Bye.
Absolutely. The simple answer is yes, that it's one of the most versatile and profitable forms of digital marketing that we have available to us today. And to that end, I like to use statistics to support these things that coming into this year, 63% of businesses were using video marketing. And out of those, about 80% felt that was providing them a great ROI. Now, I don't have quantifiable numbers on what the ROI was, but great is better than good.
Right. So they say.
That's right. So, even though video is not the cheapest content to create, it's well worth creating because people engage in it or engage with it. And you don't have to be Steven Spielberg when it comes to production values.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you might want to aspire to be Steven Spielberg, but it's not required to have really high video production quality. I mean, it's good if you do. I'm not saying shoot for the bottom, but people enjoy explainer videos and videos that are rich in information. And they are much more frustrated if the video doesn't have that type of content that they're looking for, as far as the info they're hoping to get, as opposed to the video production. So, the quality. And keep in mind, almost all of us on our smartphones, we have a high definition camera, iPhone, Samsung cameras.
Right.
And people might think that's a crazy thing to do. Like, what? I'm going to use my smartphone to create a video. Well, I mean, you have some of the equipment right there.
Right. Yep. I've been using video marketing since 2011. That's how long ago it was. And I didn't know anything except maybe kind of how to talk a little bit. And I used, way back at the beginning, my wife's little laptop with a 360p phone camera on it. And the audio wasn't that great. That was probably an area that I improved on the fastest, even before the video, having good audio quality. But people have consistently told me that they wanted to work with me because of the video content that I put out.
Well, I'm sure the content
very
was
effective.
Yeah, I'm sure your content was really good because you're very knowledgeable about what you do. And it's interesting that you bring up the audio. I mean, I wasn't really planning on going into production tips or anything like that, but that is one thing that consumers don't have a lot of patience for, is really poor audio.
Yep.
So using the mic on your iPhone, the microphone on your iPhone probably won't work. I mean, you can get a $10 lavalier mic that, or inexpensive. I don't know if it's $10, but inexpensive, and clip to your collar and get better sound.
Yeah, one of the tools that I used for years, it's actually over there, which is why I'm looking at it on its shelf, is one of those little voice recorders like you take into college to record notes. And I record the audio simultaneously on whatever device I'm recording it with, and you just clap your hands. And when you're editing it, you just line up the audio tracks and delete the crappy one.
Right, and
you're good. It's pretty simple.
Yes, video editing software has come way down in price, and so I mean, when I say that video is more expensive to produce, It is, but it's not crazy expensive. I mean, is it less than typing out a white paper, for example? No, not necessarily, but the engagement is so much higher. Yeah. And one thing about video is that it really cuts through the clutter.
Right.
Excuse me. And if you think about the effectiveness of video, it's really not all that surprising. When you kind of drill down and think about, like, people have a tendency to remember as much as 80% of what they see and hear at the same time. And when it comes to what they can recall from what they saw, it goes down to about 20%. And if it's something that they heard and only heard with no visual, it goes down to 10%. So the combination is of audio and video, moving pictures with audio, goes way up. And about 2/3 of the population are visual learners. And visual, of our five senses, vision is by far our most dominant sense. So here's a factoid that I found fascinating, and I'm sure everyone else will too, is that visual information is processed by the brain 60,000 times faster than text, which is kind of a hard thing to get your head
it's like
around.
A Joe Stalin statistic, isn't it? One death is a tragedy, a million deaths is a statistic. 60,000 times faster.
60,000 times faster. So
warp speed.
Exactly.
That's all you need to know. Video. Okay. So speaking of engagement, I understand there have been significant changes over the past few years about how people engage with their videos while they're on their mobile devices.
It's really fascinating. So 90% of people watch video on their mobile device, which is a large percentage.
Yeah, what we talked about last week.
Yeah, and over the last 5 years, consumption of video on mobile devices has increased 100% year over year. Excuse me. So it's up over 500% since 2013. So as more and more people watch videos on the go, so to speak, your video audience gets bigger and bigger. The other thing is that's just a super fascinating thing is that people who watch video on their mobile device are twice as likely as television viewers and 1.5 times more likely than desktop viewers to feel a strong personal connection to the brand.
Weird.
Isn't it? I mean, isn't
so because I'm holding this device in my hand, somehow I feel I've got a stronger connection to the video content and the brands being displayed to me. That's weird.
I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on TV, but yeah, psychologists, psychiatrists, the studies. I mean, I'm not either of those type of physicians. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to explain. The human species, we're an interesting lot, aren't we? There's some sort of thing about the proximity effect that we're holding the device makes us feel more connected to it, which is a strange but interesting thing to keep in mind when 90% of consumers are watching video on their mobile devices. And as we talk about so often, the customer experience is so important to people.
Right.
Keep in mind that they're watching your video very likely on a mobile device, a small little square picture, not a 16:9 aspect ratio, and they're likely to feel a connection with you or with your brand. So yeah, it's.
So if you're a marketer, you want to make sure that they're watching it on the mobile device. And the good news is the game's already rigged that way.
Well, I mean, you can't.
They're already using.
Yeah, you can't dictate that it's going to be seen on a mobile device. It's just that keeping in mind that most people are watching on a mobile device, it gives you the opportunity, since they're going to feel, or there's a propensity to feel more connected, to create your content so that it takes advantage of that.
Okay.
So that it's engaging, and it provides the information that people want.
So let's take that to a situation where a company is in, maybe they're launching a new product or a new service. They're trying to generate awareness. What happens when they use video?
The engagement goes up dramatically. Okay. And like 98% of consumers say that they've watched an explainer video to learn more about a product or service. So, I mean, 98%. So nearly everyone.
Not enough about the Tide Pods, I guess. Sure.
Oh, Jason.
5 years from now, that's going to date this video. People are going to be like, what's he talking about?
What is he talking about? Yeah. We'll just let him wonder, okay? We won't provide any context there. But I do love your sense of humor, as you know.
So 98%, though, of people
have watched an explainer video to learn more about a product or service. I mean, I have, certainly. Have you?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Because you're part of the 98%.
Wow. I think I want to be part of the 2%. That's a different 2%. Of the companies that are using video, about half of them have a explainer video on their homepage or their landing page. And 83% of those say that that explainer video is very effective. Okay. So it sounds to me, though, like more companies should have an explainer video on their homepage.
Their homepage.
And that they ought to be pumping some effort into that.
Absolutely. I mean, the homepage, or, as you know, as a conversion expert, landing pages, having different dedicated landing pages for different offers and things like that. Having the explainer there is, it's a good thing. It helps people. They'll engage it, most likely. They'll watch it and they'll learn more, and you tell them what it is that you need for them to know, and they'll be happy campers, so to speak.
What if the thing they're trying to explain is kind of complicated?
Well, that's a good question. So, this talking head type video that we're doing now, which is video marketing, by the way, friends. It doesn't work all that well. Animated videos work much better when you're trying to explain a complex or a highly technical subject matter. And those are, people really engage with those. The animations, there's the one that we see often, and I'm always amazed to hear how well they do. And that's the hand, that's like writing on a whiteboard and stuff. I mean, that's the most simple example of a animated video, but just real simple animations, just, to help convey and break down the complexity with the visuals more so than, like us talking here.
Right. Now I can picture one in my head with the Jiffy marker or whatever, drawing in some ukulele type music. Dun, 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 dun. Starting up in the background. Very, very common. So video is great for teaching, apparently, if you combine it with this animated approach. What else is great about video when it comes to learning?
Just the fact that you can get it in bite-sized nuggets, so to speak, as opposed to reading. People are so busy, they don't want to read. I don't want to say that we're lazy, but we've been conditioned because we're so busy, and life moves at a much more frenetic pace than it did, generations ago. We've demonstrated the behavior that we don't like to read, or we don't want to take the time to read. So when it comes to reading, we'll look at the visual, we'll hit the headline, the subhead. Yeah. If it's interesting, we'll read more. If not, we move on. But videos are they're a great way to teach and for people to learn because they're so easy to consume and of the strong propensity that people have for watching them.
Okay. So
And that's
Let's
the
give the
preference.
people what they want.
Exactly.
They
So
want video. Why should we stop them?
Right. It is the content of preference. It's what they prefer. They'd much rather watch a short video, punchy, get the information, get out, than to have to read much of anything or do a deep dive and dig deep on things.
Okay. So people would really like to get help on their own schedule when it's convenient for them. Maybe they're not in the mood to talk to somebody at a particular time and want to learn on their own. So I guess there's a lot to be said about using videos for do-it-yourself customer service, huh? I mean, if that's what they want.
Well, yes.
It's got to be cheaper too.
It's much less expensive for the company, and it's 70% of people say that they would prefer to watch an explainer video rather than watch an explainer video to figure out a product-related problem than deal with someone. And that goes to your point as far as maybe they're not in the mood to talk to someone, but back to your point about your schedule, people want to do things in a time that is convenient to them for their schedule, what works for them. And, you can consume video whenever you want. You
2 in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. 2 in the morning in your pajamas eating a
Rice Krispies.
Exactly. I was eating cereal.
Who has the camera in my house?
Oh, that's funny.
Okay.
So
that's an area I think big cost savings could happen, where if your video is good at answering the common customer problems and addressing them, instead of having a staffer explain it over and over and over, one at a time, again and again and again, potentially getting into frustrating situations where the customer isn't maybe understanding or following along, or I mean, we've all had that experience of calling a computer customer support line and getting have you tried turning it off and turning it on again? And I mean, nothing's more infuriating than that, I think, when it comes to customer service. So,
exactly.
Whereas a video, how can you argue with a video, right? You're consuming it. You're not engaging with it in quite the same way as you would a live human being. And so the potential for friction is far less. Plus, they can go back and watch it again.
Exactly.
I know I'm a camera guy, and I have taken apart old manual camera lenses on occasion to try and fix something. And it is so much easier to be able to watch a video from somebody who is taking it apart in the video. And if I miss something, I can go back and watch that 10-second segment again.
Sure. That's a great example.
Yeah.
What's the guy, the lens guy, Carl Zeiss or Zeiss?
Oh, Zeiss, yeah.
Zeiss?
Yeah.
Does he know that you're doing that with his lenses?
I don't know if I could afford a Zeiss lens. I've got a bunch of Canon, and the last one that I took apart was a third party. I think I paid like $18 for it or something like that.
Well, I'm not trying to show off my lens knowledge. That's just a name that I heard and obviously didn't know how to pronounce, but I didn't know that that's a very expensive or high-end lens.
Yeah, they're good. They're good lenses.
So you're talking about what you were just talking about brings up a point. Like, you think about when you go to websites for help and they've got the FAQs. We see frequently asked questions. If those questions are answered with videos, just like you're talking about, calling for customer support and having the person explain the same thing over and over and over, it's the Pareto principle. It's the 80-20 rule that 80% of the calls are about 20% of the issues. If you know what those are, creating those explainer videos on the areas where people commonly get stuck or have struggle points is just helpful for them. And like you said, it will reduce costs for the company, and it's a win-win situation. And you can do that, like you said, in the middle of the night while eating your Rice Krispies or whatever. And to your point also, the part you didn't quite get, it's so simple. Just back up a little and watch it again.
And you're not frustrating a customer service agent. at that moment either with your apparent slowness. The help section of websites is something that savvy, astute internet marketers have been onto for a long time. 5-6 years I've been seeing the smart internet marketers who produce a membership site or something, teaching platform. They will say, go and look at the responses in your customer service section, the help section, because that help desk information will give you all that information that we're talking about. What should I make the videos about? Well, look at the top, right? The top 20% of problems that are asked about 80% of the time. Very, very useful. What about social sharing? We all know about, we all hear about, just put something up on social media, and what happens there? I mean, how does that work? How are people using video in social sharing?
Well, how are people using it? Well, people share videos that they like a lot on social. On YouTube, Facebook obviously has the little button, where you click to share, and YouTube, of course, you can share a variety of ways via email or however. But there's a huge percentage of people, 3/4 actually, of consumers say that they will share a video with a friend if they find it amusing. And
entertainment.
Yeah, if it's amusing.
Such an important factor. Not teaching or educating, but entertaining.
Not necessarily
number one.
Not necessarily teaching, but I might send one to you that I think that you would find funny. You and I have, we talked off camera right before we started about something we both found amusing that not everyone would, but everyone has their different things. But, it comes to mind like, so-and-so would find this funny, and they share that with them if they think they would find it amusing or funny as well. And keep in mind, when it comes to sharing, people share stories, not facts. So, I've rattled off some statistics here, and here's one right now. There are about 8 million video streams a day, live videos, Facebook live videos a day on Facebook. So, and this is one of them. So if you were going to share that, you wouldn't just walk up to someone and say the fact. You wouldn't just say, hey, 8 million videos are shared a day. You'd put it in the context of a story. It's like, I was watching Jason and Steven today on their video, their live video on the Future Now channel. And, they talked about X or Y or Z. So you put it in the context of a story, and we're conditioned to listen to stories because storytelling goes back to the time of cavemen and cavewomen, as we know from paintings on inside of caves and things like, archaeologists have found. And it's a known fact by psychologists, and this probably from internet marketing. If you say, I'm going to tell you a story, or imagine this, or picture this, people's ears just perk up, and it piques their curiosity because they want to know what's going to happen next. Who's in the story? Well, how's it going to evolve? And so that's a cool thing to keep in mind.
Right. They will huddle up kind of around the campfire.
Around the campfire.
And it can be as dumb a thing as you want. I mean, the story of the Bud Light Night and the Super Bowl ads was as dumb as can be, and yet I wanted more. I wanted more of those commercials.
I forgot what the saying was that they were.
Oh, the dilly dilly.
Dilly dilly.
Right.
So I remember, I researched that after I missed those commercials during the Super Bowl, and I researched it to go see what it was about. And I don't know if you remember, I sent you the message about it, about the CMO coming up, and it didn't mean anything. They just created a funny sounding couple syllables to
slogan.
A slogan that's like, it is kind of dumb, but fun,
And it's a story being told through video, and it's effective.
Big time. So one of the great examples of a video shared through social is the first Dollar Shave Club video, which was a commercial that they did in 2012 that it was really funny. It was called "Our Effing Blades Are Great." That was actually the name of the commercial, and it was done by the CEO and founder Mike. And the production value or the production quality of this thing was a 60-second spot. It only cost them $4,500 to produce. But when it came to sharing, in the first 3 months after the company posted the video, it had over 5 million views. And, views are a vanity metric, but in the first 48 hours from when that video went live on YouTube, they had 12,000 orders. They had 12,000 customers.
There's the ROI.
Yes, think about it. 12,000. So if you don't know Dollar Shave Club, it's a membership site where you get your razor blades once a month in the mail. Really inexpensive. I mean, literally, the ones for $1 are like the 2-blade cartridges, and I think I pay $6, and I've switched to every other month, and you get 4 cartridges that are 4-blade cartridges, and that lasts me. But so, it crashed their server. They didn't anticipate that number of orders, so that's something they recovered from pretty quickly. And they've grown that subscription service from that time in 2012 over the next 5 years to 3.2 million subscribers, 80% of which are men and 20% are women. And that was the only form of advertising that they used, was Google Ads and YouTube videos, until about 18 months ago with their acquisition by Unilever for $1 billion in cash money, as in billion with a B, $1 billion.
So I know that ad affected you way back in 2012, and you became one of the earliest customers, right?
I really did.
Dollar Shave Club.
I did. I mean, it was.
I hope we get paid for plugging them here. But I know I'm a big NASCAR fan, and there's some exciting news I want to share with you and our listeners. There's a race coming up in the Xfinity Series, the DC Solar 200, and the cobalt blue Stephen Monaco Inc. logo will be on the Dollar Shave Club Chevy Camaro number 2 car driven by Matt Tifft in Phoenix. That's on March 10th. That'll be on Fox.
That's true. So
all of you be glued for that logo on there, okay?
It's fun.
I think it's pretty cool.
It is. It is. I appreciate you mentioning it. It's very fun. So another thing about video is it builds trust.
Seeing is believing, right? And
it's one of those things. Seeing us on camera here, I mean, you get to feel for who we are as people and our personalities and our expertise and stuff. And the trust is a factor. To the point where it affects sales in a positive way. So 57% of consumers say that watching a video gave them more confidence to purchase online. Something, again, the human psychology I can't quite explain, but I know that the metrics are there, and it's so worth doing. So building trust should be a goal all on its own, separate from selling and pitching and explainer videos. Just establishing trust is a great way to start building long-term relationships.
Okay, so who cares about conversions today? Really? If you're in it for building your brand, you want to be in it for the long term, and video is the way to do it. Okay, that's the message. So no more preaching through megaphones about buy my stuff, buy it now.
It's much better to avoid that completely and provide useful, interesting information and let consumers come to you. Because, they don't like being preached to. We talk about that a lot. Putting down the megaphone, there's a strong propensity for marketers to continue to do that, even though it's a no-no.
It's not as effective. So
it's not just about building traffic. The trust is creating trust is a great way to get people to engage with your content and spread that content and advocate for your brand if they find it interesting or if they find it amusing when it comes to, some of those social shares. Video is interesting in that it has a tendency the engagement with it to spark emotions, just like television does. And since so many buying decisions are emotional, even B2B decisions, while people don't like to think that they are emotional, there's emotion tied to them because we're people and we have feelings. So it's a great way to engage people and get that affinity going with them, build trust, explain things to them so they understand and can make informed buying decisions. And it's one of those things, if you're serious about marketing, which you should be, then you need to be serious about video being part of your marketing.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So how can video, let's do a 180 on this anyway.
Okay.
Even though we want to build trust and we're in it for the long haul, how can video boost conversion and sales?
I don't know exactly how, as far as the psychology of it. I know that it does.
The effect. Okay, let's talk about the effects then.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, there must be numbers. The accountants will love that. To tally up, right? What's going on with video when it comes to conversions?
Well, it can make you some serious money. And as a conversion expert like you are, Jason, and the closing engine and what you do and where you have expertise, I think that you'll find that it's interesting because it provides pretty dramatic increases in conversions across a number of product categories. For instance, electronic. So this is like having an explainer video. This is having an explainer video on your homepage or landing page, as opposed to a competitive brand who does not. So the ones who do have a video of that sort, in the electronics category, conversions up 101% over those who don't.
Okay.
Jewelry, 85%. And I was thinking about this a second ago. One of my close friends that I've known since I was a teenager, graduated from high school with, owns a jewelry store, a fine jewelry store. And so don't just be thinking B2C, because my buddy Mike does not make diamonds. He buys them from the wholesalers, and he goes to shows that only bona fide retailers can go to, and there's websites for that as well, and there's content for that for the people who own jewelry stores and are selling to. So personal care doesn't convert that much higher, but 14%. That's a decent. That's a decent lift.
I'm surprised with that one.
Yeah,
really, maybe the ladies understand it just intrinsically better about how this cucumber seaweed wrap thing is going to work better. I don't know.
But still, there is, it was worth noting because there's some lift there.
Right.
So home and garden, 43% increase, and gifts, 113% increase over those companies that don't have an explainer video or some sort of video that gets a call to action going for boosting sales and conversions.
Okay, so some interesting numbers there.
I think. I hope others do. I like the numbers that support the things we're talking about. So to that end, about 3/4 of people who have watched a explainer video have gone ahead and bought the product.
Wow.
So that ties back into the sales. So maybe it's seeing.
There's some Cialdini stuff in there too about they've made a micro commitment to watch the video and then become educated up on it. And
who is the person you referenced?
Robert Cialdini.
Oh, okay.
On Influence. It's a classic marketing book. Interesting. Because they've made a commitment and learned more about it, and then now they're committed to this brand because they've watched that explainer video. I would be interested in getting some deeper level statistics on that someday, if that's possible, about whether somebody watched 3 explainer videos across 3 different brands and how that influenced their decision. Right.
That is curious. I do not have the answer to that off the top of my head here.
Right. But
or in my
the long story short is better to have the video than not to have the video.
Right. So if you haven't got it started with video marketing yet, I mean, there's no time like the present, because it works well.
Right. And you don't need to fall victim to these excuses of, oh, I need this elaborate equipment. I see people all the time asking for recommendations on equipment. Use your phone. Use a little digital personal camera that have gone out of style these days because of cell phones becoming so good. I mean, I have a 20 megapixel camera on my tiny phone. I mean, the sensor's got to be the size of a pea, but but good audio, which $60 will get you something. $100 will get you one of those Zoom things. That's like a big audio recorder. I've got one of those as well, but I continue to use my little voice recorder. So don't let that be an excuse. You don't need this elaborate, expensive equipment. You just don't.
Well, and cool. You don't need elaborate backdrops or stuff either. I mean, you use your whiteboard behind you, which it shows that you're an organized person, and so you don't. I mean, I have a whiteboard behind me too. I usually keep it erased for videos because I don't want to give away anything I'm working on.
There's nothing on there.
Competitors. I agree. I take a picture of it with my phone, and then I do.
Oh yeah.
I do. I learned years ago the hard way that a custodian came in and erased the whiteboard with R&D back when I owned the software company. It's like, oh my gosh. I mean, there were hours of brainstorming with some real smart guys that wrote up all this Boolean logic algebra stuff. So other ways to use video for businesses to segue back and get on topic is with email. Email is the single highest ROI, or yields the single highest ROI of any form of marketing. It's not super sexy, but it is, you can take it to the bank. It has roughly 4,000% ROI. So for every dollar you put in, you are likely to see $40 come out. And then when you combine video into your email, it compounds the effect. Including videos in the email can produce about a 96% click-through rate, which is significant. When you're talking about conversions and stuff, these are what I'm speaking to specifically are introductory emails. So this is the first time you've heard from the company, and a video is included in that email. And, again, back to all the stuff we've talked about, they can learn quickly. They can digest a lot of information very rapidly from a short video. And what a great way to stand out and begin that conversation with your target market and settle your branding into their skulls, I guess, get them thinking what you want them to think about you. So video seems really good for engaging consumers, both B2C and B2B companies. Where are areas where you see companies struggling with using video marketing? I see it a lot, and I see it with strategy, and I see that with most areas of marketing that companies have a tendency to put tactics ahead of strategy, which is always a mistake. And there's with video marketing, it's not an exception. In fact, it's pretty prevalent. So there's an old saying that every journey, or a journey of 1,000 miles, starts with a single step or something to that effect. And that first step should not be pressing the record button on your video camera. Right. The first step should be to start defining the strategy, and that is to create a plan. Like, what are we trying to do here? What is the goal? Don't just start shooting video or writing a script. Figure out what what the journey is and where you're going to take people. So don't start creating video for the sake of creating video. And the way to get started is, or a way that I recommend to get started is with a real simple mission statement for the video, like a simple one-liner that. Oops.
Well, it's a one-liner, so I imagine it would sum up what you're doing, right? I mean, what that viewer is going to learn.
Yeah,
what you want them to get out of it.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so think about these type of things. What type of content are you going to create?
Okay.
I mean, are these for education? Are they entertaining? Are they practical? Are they a mix of those things? Think about the tone of your brand. The Dollar Shave Club ad was very irreverent and was sarcastic. That wouldn't work for a lot of brands. Right. So you need to determine your approach here and outline your target demographic and those things, and think about what would resonate with them. And also think about what is the takeaway the audience is going to
right.
What are they receiving from this? What's your goal as far as your strategy regarding I can't think of another word besides,
I don't know. What do you want them to know about you? What do you want them to know about your product? What do you want them to know about the marketplace and even them in relation to the competition, perhaps?
Sure.
Right?
Sure. So yeah, what are you trying to accomplish, and with whom, or to whom? So the statement I was trying to think of a minute ago, and I had some brain fade there, was like determine content pillars, and by content pillars, I'm talking about the broad areas in which you will need video, because you're likely to need several. So on a website, you have videos for internal videos, often for HR, for example, and what it's like to work here. The about us things. You can show so much more about the brand or the company if you use video. Product videos, of course, you're going to have. If you have a number of products, you'll have videos vertically down the line of each separate area of the product line. So that's one thing. I mean, that's or another part of the strategy is figure out those broad themes where you have a story to tell, and then you can start brainstorming on the work on what it's going to take to tell those stories. And you have a number of options to consider there. Like, are you making a recorded webinar, how-to videos, thought leadership videos, walk through specific topics, like I mentioned, like company culture videos about us and for HR and to attract talent to come in to work for your company, and documentary style or mini documentary style thing. There's a variety of different types of videos that that you'd want to create. So thinking all those things through ahead of time is key. I mean, it's important to have that strategy in place before you press record.
Right. And we might want to find out pain points, the kind of questions that our target audience is asking. And that will help you with your lead generation content, right? Because you can answer those questions with, this is how to do it.
Exactly.
And then what? Then you're established as the people to come talk to about this.
Yeah, you're the go-to expert because you've demonstrated the expertise and that in that what you're talking about, and that builds trust, that builds credibility, and it establishes thought leadership, and all those things work really well together for the reasons we talked about a bit earlier. And the other thing you want to do, as far as before you press record on your camera is to set tangible KPIs. And KPIs are key performance indicators, and determine what it is you're trying to do. You know, what are we trying to get from this video?
Right.
We're trying to generate 50 product demos for a B2B company by the end of the quarter, or we're trying to generate 200 leads by the end of the month, or say a B2C company, we're trying to get 2,000 consumers to take our survey, for example, by next week. So don't pay any attention to vanity metrics. They don't help. I mean, knowing that you got a bunch of views doesn't mean a thing if the goal was to get leads and you didn't get any. So having a bunch of views doesn't mean anything in a vacuum.
Right.
So, have those KPIs determined, and that way you'll be able to determine your ROI and see what your return was based on what you were trying to do. So have a mission, have a plan, start that journey with those things in mind. Don't put tactics first. Think through the strategy, and that carries over into where your videos are going to live and how you're going to distribute it. So, for some videos, and a lot of them, just putting them on YouTube and Facebook is fine, because if they get shared, that's a great thing. That doesn't, you're not upset by that. However, if it's like gated content or video that's behind a paywall or something that you need them to exchange information, you need the consumer to exchange, at least provide their email and name to access the video, you might want to use a video host, a dedicated video hosting company, like Wistia or Bright Cove or Vimeo Pro. Those are all good company. Wistia in particular, if you're interested in knowing how long someone watched a video, like literally how many minutes they engaged and exactly when they stopped watching, that way you can follow up with an email that's pretty unobtrusive that says, would you like to pick up where you left off? It's not pushy. You can be real cool about it, going, we all get busy. I know.
And you can use Facebook retargeting and have a pixel that fires after they've invested 5 minutes into the video.
Of course.
To demonstrate some seriousness. Yeah.
Of course. That's a great
example. You can do with this stuff.
That's a great example as well.
So have that idea of where it's going to reside and what you actually want to accomplish with this. Don't just produce content blindly. Okay.
Right.
Now, I know one thing that used to happen when I first started making videos, I would begin them all with, "Hi, my name is Jason Kanigan from blah, blah, blah," the company that I was, doing that. And that wasn't very good. It wasn't awful, but what I learned to do after a while, or another thing that I would do is I had an animated opener of my company name and with some music, and I would put that on the very front of the video. And that was quite popular back in the early days, I guess around 2011, 2012, right? Of that period of video marketing. What I learned to do, if you look at videos that I made in 2015, 2016, let's say, is I would record my video and I would take a chunk that I felt, or people would tell me, was the most interesting, and I would move that up to the front, say for 10 seconds or something like that, where I would be saying something inflammatory or exciting or shocking or educational.
As a teaser, so to speak.
Then I would put the sting with the video logo or whatever, and then I would run the rest, the video as it was normally, right? It's the sequential explanation of me, right? And that became much more effective.
That's a great idea.
And you know why that works, because you got to get to the point. How quickly. Fast? Yeah.
Well, you've got about 8 seconds. Our attention spans are short. We're busy. We're bombarded with all sorts of information. It's an attention-based economy. There are so many things vying for our attention. So you have to get to the point very quickly and make the point. Don't linger on. Your example that you just provided is great because it's the hook. You know, you took the hook. Exactly. You took the hook out, put it at the front to get their attention. And if they're interested, you know, they're going to watch more.
Right. And this is not a new concept. I think Beethoven or Mozart was doing it, right? Make a loud noise at the start. Maybe that was Richard Strauss. And then you can do whatever you want. The composers of symphonies, right?
That's really interesting.
I think it's totally valid. I think it's the same concept.
That's very interesting, especially when you juxtapose that to what you said about back in the early days of creating video in 2011. You know, it's just like, that was just the other day, wasn't it? So video marketing has come a long way in a short time. You know, one of the speaking about that and videos on Facebook and the loud sound is that 85% of people who watch videos on Facebook do so with no sound. So it's important to have captions or some sort of text right off the bat so people can see if they are interested, you know. Otherwise, they just see, you know, a mouth like ours talking.
Right.
Like, I can tell the guy's talking. I've seen people actually like wave their hands, like turn, you know, the caption says turn up the volume. I don't think that's necessarily the best way to do it. A more effective way to do it with more punch is the way Jason explained was, you know, put the hook at the beginning, capture their attention right off the bat. You know, and aside, when it comes to like the ads on YouTube that you can skip after 5 seconds.
Right.
It always blows me away that they don't get to the point in those 5 seconds.
Right.
It's like, man,
I see so many internet marketing ones where it's like out front of some guy's rented mansion and they've got a wrought iron gate or something. Yeah. And he's like, I was just about to go outside, but let me, you know, and I'm skip. I don't need this. Yeah.
I see those as well, and I find them very contrived. But generally speaking, from, you know, large brands that you would think would know better, like the Fortune 500, you know, they kind of yammer on, and it's like, okay, the 5 seconds are over, and you didn't get my attention because I don't know what you're offering here. You know, the visuals were cool, the sound was cool, but I clicked this on YouTube because that's what I wanted to watch. So. Right. It's a missed opportunity. I'm just saying, you know, underscoring the get to the point quickly.
Right. Stephen, we're about to wrap up here. We've gone through a lot of content today. What about Google? I think that's the last thing we can hit on. Google and videos.
Google loves videos.
Okay.
And that's because, you know, Google owns YouTube. And when videos are embedded on your landing page or in your website anywhere, you are likely to get this is like drum roll, please, for YouTube and Google, 53 times more likely to be first on a Google search over your competitors who did not have an embedded video. So I'm not an SEO expert by any means, but you know, 53 times or over 50 times more, that I can get my head around pretty quickly. It helps with search engine optimization and just all the other things we talked about. Engagement, content that people want. I mean, that's the form they want it in.
Right.
And you know, hit them with the facts, hit them with the info. Don't leave them hanging. Don't leave them frustrated that they didn't get the explanation in the explainer video.
Okay, well, I think that wraps it up for today. I'm Jason Kanigan from The Closing Engine. That there is Stephen Monaco, CMO-For-Hire. If you want to talk to Stephen about what he might be able to do for helping you with marketing in your business, go to stephenmonaco.com. You can follow him on Facebook and Twitter. And if you're not watching this on the Future Now page on Facebook, say you're watching it in a video form on my YouTube channel, let's say, have a look in the description below. I'll link to the Facebook page so that you can watch and be here live for next week's, which will be episode number 6 of Future Now. I can't believe we've gotten this far into it.
Say, can you believe it? Yeah. This was episode 5. Well, thank you very much for hosting, Jason.
You bet.
Appreciate all you do. And you guys, you and Jeremy at the Closing Engine, just continue to rock.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you all next week.